What is going on, Babylonians? It's me, Songs of Rage, back with another Battlefield gun guide to bring to you, and today we're going to be looking at, you guessed it, the PP. We're looking at my PP, we're looking at the PP-29, and this is the main gun that pretty much everyone rocked when the game first dropped, and it's hard to be able to argue why. The PP-29 was definitely one of the better guns that are features in this game, and it's just so easy to be able to use, it's so easy to be able to handle, and especially with the it seems to have lower bloom compared to some of the other guns, which means that it can absolutely laser out to a little bit more of a distance, and definitely further than you would expect an SMG to be able to take on gunfights. So what we're going to do is we're going to be able to break down the gun stats. We're going to be able to have a look into what makes the PP-29 so good, and as always, please make sure you drop a like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out, and it really just helps to be able to encourage me to be able to make some more gun guides. So I know you all enjoy them, I know you're all finding these interesting, so make sure that you do hit those. But let's get straight into it. So the first stat we always look at is obviously the aim down sights tab. Now you'll be pleased to know that the PP-29, my PP-29, has exactly the same aim down sight speed as the PBX that we've looked at before. So this has a 220 millisecond aim down sight time, which is very snappy, and is definitely something that you want to be able to use to be able to make your gun a lot more accurate, especially in those kind of CQB kind of areas. So when it came to the magazines, we only have 3 to worry about, which definitely makes my job a lot easier to be able to do these guides for you. But it also means that you can rock all 3 with no choice. You don't need to worry about any kind of choosing or anything like that, which ones to be able to leave behind. You can rock all 3 on your plus system. So the standard magazine clocked in at 65 rounds, where the high power clocked in at 53 rounds, and the subsonic clocked in at 52. When it came to the reload speeds, this was what really blew my mind, and I could not believe how quickly you can reload these PP-29 magazines. So the standard magazine reloads in 1.8 seconds, and you'll notice that's exactly a whole second quicker than what the PBX can reload a 30-round magazine, and you've got double the capacity in this. And I honestly, it blows my mind as to why Battlefield, by DICE, why EA, or thought this was a good idea. I genuinely don't understand, but I guess that's why everyone kind of really gravitated towards the PP-29 definitely straight away. When it came to the high power magazine, this clocked in at a 1.98 second reload, and the subsonic also reloaded in 1.98 seconds. So you're going to have some blisteringly fast reload speeds, especially for the magazine capacity that you've got for this gun. When it came to the rounds per minute, though, we are looking at around about 715.6 rounds per minute when it came to the standard magazine. When it came to the high power, I got around about 665, and then when it came to the subsonic, I got 668. So there's a bit of difference. It could be a frame rounding when it came to those last two, but just know you will be having a slower rate of fire compared to the other SMGs when it comes to in the same kind of category, but it does overall make it a more steady gun to be able to try and aim. So you've got a decent amount of rate of fire. You definitely still beat some of the assault rifles, so you don't need to necessarily worry about that. When it came to the damage profiles, so we have, obviously, like we mentioned, we've got 3 magazines that we need to worry about, and as far as I can tell, they all have the exact same damage ranges. So when it came to the standard magazine, your first drop off is at 29 meters. So well, just before 30 meters. So this clocked in at 26 damage. For 30 to 39 meters, you're doing 22 damage. For 40 to 49, you're doing 18. And then for 50 meters onwards, you're doing 15 damage. This is the exact same damage profile for the subsonic rounds. But when it came to the high power, once again, just like the PBX, this isn't helping with your close range. It's helping with your longer ranges. So when it came to up to 30 meters, you're doing 26 damage. From 30 to 39, you're doing 22. So once again, this has not changed. But then from 40 meters to 49, you're still doing 22 damage as well. And then at 50 meters onwards, you're doing 18. So what does this mean for you? Well, on the standard and the subsonic rounds, you're doing you're killing anywhere between 4, 5, 6, or 7 shots. And when it comes to the high power, you're killing in 4, 5, or 6. So it does help a little bit, but it only really helps at those other ranges. And if you're trying to engage people at 40 meters with an SMG, while those do actually happen, I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't kind of like take an SMG out specifically to be able to take on those kind of battles. So why you'd already have the high power magazine on for that, I don't really know. So it doesn't quite make sense to me. But you can actually put a suppressor on this gun, and you'll be interested to know that the suppressor doesn't hurt the PP-29 as bad, but it still obviously makes it a little bit you know, it kind of hurts it up close, but it doesn't necessarily hurt it when it comes to range. So for the first 30 meters, so obviously we're losing 10% damage, which means that the suppressed standard and the suppressed subsonic, we're now looking at a 5 shot to kill up to 40 meters, then a 6 shot to kill from 40 to 49, and then an 8 shot to kill when it came to 50 meters onwards. But when it came to the high power, once again, we're looking at 5 shots to kill all the way up to 50 meters, and then 50 meters onwards, we're now looking at a 6 shot to kill. So, suppressor on a high power is not necessarily a bad option if you are looking to be able to get some kind of long range kind of gunfights going with the PP-29. Then that could be the way to go for you. It's definitely got a decent magazine capacity for it. It's definitely got the ability for it. It's just not necessarily what it's initially geared up for. But you might find some success with it. So feel free to mess about with it. So let's wrap up everything that we've learned so far into our time to kill values. So when it comes to the standard magazine, up to 30 meters, obviously we've got a 252 millisecond time to kill. Anywhere between 30 and 39 is 335, 40 to 49 is 419, and 50 meters onwards is 503. When it comes to the subsonic, because we're looking at the same damage range, this comes in at 269 milliseconds, 359, 449, 538. So always a little bit behind the standard, and that's mainly down to the fact of the rate of fire, so the rounds per minute. When it comes to the high power, because obviously we've got that extended middle range, it means that up to 29 meters we're doing 271 damage. 271 milliseconds. When it goes between 30 and 49 meters, we're now looking at 361 milliseconds, so it does actually help with those longer ranges. And then 50 meters onwards, we're looking at 451 milliseconds. So the high power is pretty much there and pretty much designed to be able to do those extended gunfights. So anything from 40 meters onwards is when you're going to start seeing a bonus. But primarily because this is an SMG, you're going to be looking at probably less, less than those ranges. So therefore, you're definitely going to be fine with the standard rounds. It's not going to hurt in any kind of sense, and it does give you the biggest magazine size out of all of them, and also the quickest reload. So technically, while the other two for, there's not much really like any kind of use. There's not really any more. There's no real point as such to be able to go into the others unless you've run out of ammunition. Now, obviously, if you've run out of your standard ammunition, you can swap over to the high power or the subsonic, and then obviously that will refill your stocks back up until you've obviously find an ammo box to be able to get your standard rounds back in. So technically, the standard is on paper technically the best overall. But feel free to have a bit of a mess about. You're definitely fine with either of these. It's just the standard technically performs a little bit better. Now, we do have two barrels to worry about again, just like the PBX. We have a standard barrel and we have a long-range barrel. So the standard barrel clocked in obviously at 715.6 rounds per minute, and the bullet velocity clocked in at 540. So you do have a better bullet velocity than the PBX, so you are able to extend those gunfights a little bit easier than you would have done with the PBX. But when it came to the long barrel, I'm going to recommend that you steer clear of this, because unless it's bugged, unless it's just not working as it should be intending, I noticed that the rounds per minute seem to drop like a tiny bit, so like maybe this could be frame rating and it's just not affected it whatsoever, but I got it down to 715.5 rounds per minute, so a little bit off. But when it came to the bullet velocity, this also dropped. So instead of it being 540, it's now gone down to 526. Now the long barrel is designed to be able to increase your bullet velocity by also obviously hindering your rounds per minute. So what it's doing at the moment is it's barely affecting your rounds per minute, but then it's also dropping your bullet velocity as well. So I'm going to recommend that you steer clear from the long barrel. It's just not worth currently using in its current state. So if you're going to take anything away from this video, it's definitely take that away. So if we get ourselves into the sights and the aim down sight times when using the different scopes that are available in this game, pretty much the standard stuff, so anything that's irons or hollow sight, so basically doesn't affect your magnification whatsoever, is standard. So this comes in at 220 milliseconds. When you use the UH1 Smart, it's the exact same as the PBX, so that means we're going to be seeing a 50 millisecond increase, so that goes up to 270. The Exo Smart 2 times, which is a separate scope that's available for the PP-29, and I think I've also seen it on the AC-42 so far. That clocks in at 250, so that's not a terrible shout if you are looking to be able to have some kind of magnification. It really does help out trying to bridge the gap, and it's not a terrible sight at all to be able to use. It's a bit clunky, but if you are looking for the magnification, it does give you the readouts that you need to be able to determine ranges, which helps out with obviously all the figures that we've just been giving. And it's also a nice magnification and just keeps you nice and snappy at the same time. We also have the hybrids, so the Ghost, the Mole, and the 2X, and the Bravo 3X clocking in at 300 milliseconds. We have the Shan 2.5 once again clocking in higher to 350 milliseconds, and then the M22 3.5X clocking in at 367 milliseconds. So once again, I would recommend that you stay away from some of the higher magnification ones. So the 3.5X is definitely a no-go. The 2.5 on the Shan is probably a bit too much, and so same with the Bravo 3X. But you can definitely get away with the 2X and any of the hollow sights as well. I do recommend that's probably the best kind of playstyle. But once again, you mad people out there, by all means, feel free to kind of mess about with those longer range optics and just see what you can get to work out. Just because of how much ammunition the PP-29 actually has, you could technically get, as long as you can control the recoil, you can technically give it a go at being able to try and beam people from massive distances. And that pretty much wraps up everything to do with the PP-29. Now, obviously, this was a staple meta weapon when the game first launched, and it has been hit by nerfs already when it comes to the vertical recoil. It's interesting to know that this gun is still seeing, not competitive use, but it's being used a lot when it comes to any of the lobbies, and it's not hard to see why, especially when you see that damage profile. The fact that headshots count as 2 times damage multipliers, and the fact that you can up to 30 meters you can do 26 damage, which means that you can two-tap headshot people up to 30 meters with the PP-29 is insane. And the fact you mix that in with the magazine, the rate of fire, it's pretty steady. The recoil's not terrible to be able to control, especially up to the ranges that you're planning to use it anyway. So it is pretty much a monster. It's basically like a quick firing like LMG, and it's if the PKP was a bit more snappy, a bit more controllable, a bit more maneuverable, all that kind of thing. So the PP-29 is definitely a monster. I don't see that changing anytime soon unless some of the other guns get a buff. But overall, I'd highly recommend that you pick up the PP-29 and you definitely take that out into your games. So that pretty much wraps it up. So let's do the massive thank you and the massive shout out to all of the Babylonian family for obviously supporting ourselves. Obviously, to be able to get yourselves as part of that group, all you need to do is click that join button that's found next to the subscribe button, which once again you should have already clicked on to be able to keep up to date with all the Battlefield gun guides that are going to be coming forward. And it literally just starts from as little as 99p a month, and every single penny of that goes straight back into the channel. It's something that we do to be able to run tiny competitions every now and then, things to be able to look into new games, to be able to obviously bring the content out for, and things to be able to improve the quality of the videos going forward. That pretty much just leaves me to say thank you all so much for staying to the end. We've definitely got more gun guides coming out in the near future, so make sure you stay tuned. And as always, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on that next video.